What is being exchanged between comedians and audience members during a stand-up comedy performance? Is it laughs for money? Is it that simple? Moral certitude about social or political beliefs in exchange for adulation? What's the exchange rate? What are we all getting out of this deal? Is comedy a transactional relationship? Is it quid pro quo, this for that, right? Like, it's interesting to me how much comedians and audiences use the word love. It's like Whitney Cummings has a comedy special called I Love You. And I'm pretty sure I saw an interview with her where she explained that she called it that because her friends pointed out to her that she often said I love you at the end of her stand-up sets, right? She didn't even realize she was saying it. Her friends pointed it out, but it's what she would say before walking off stage after every performance. I remember watching Gerard Carmichael's most recent special, Nathaniel, and he talks about, how he's struggling with the idea of accepting love from the audience, when he comes out during the special. Like, he's having a conversation with them and he's like, it's weird for me to accept that people are trying to be loving in this situation. That comes up. Gerard's friend, Bo Burnham, who directed Nathaniel, during one of Bo's specials, an audience member shouts out, I love you. And Bo responds, you love the idea of me. Quick on his feet, that Bo Burnham, right? Pretty good little quip there, but also maybe a little emotionally closed off, Mr. Burnham. How dare you heckle me with affection? I'll show you the folly of your ways with my razor sharp wit. I get it though. Bo's whole thing in his, specials, his comedy specials, is exploring performance. What does it mean to perform something? What does it mean to always be in the public eye, as a performer? That's kind of how he grew up, initially getting famous on YouTube and so on. But that exchange between Bo and that audience member raises some interesting questions. Are we only presenting the idea of ourselves in our art? How close can we get to the real thing up there, the real you? How close to the real thing is desirable if you're making good, honest art? Does making the art actually change you as a person in the process? And is that a way of being more real in the end? How possible is it for people to get to the real thing even in real life? I think that's an interesting question. Aren't we all wearing masks of one sort or another in order to participate in society? Don't we all have to rein in the real us on some level? Think about, what is a personality? A personality is a construction of action patterns that allow us to participate in society. If you break it down, that's what a personality is. We go through life and we build up ways of being that are acceptable within our given culture. We learn how to interact successfully with other people. That's what a personality is. It's a tool for social interaction. It's our characteristic behavior patterns that help us navigate the world successfully. And generally, we don't fully express our personality the same way with every single person we interact with. Certain aspects of our personality are expressed more fully depending on who is around us. That's very natural, that's very normal, that's very healthy. So if we say to someone that they don't know the real us, that's because we haven't been bold enough to fully express ourselves around them. For one reason or another, perhaps for very good reasons, we've kept aspects of our personality under wraps in their company. Performance is interesting because you're being highly selective about which aspects of your personality are being shared, right? Performance is less organic than daily life. It's more constructed. You're trying to get at a particular thing with performance. You're not just naturally reacting to daily life, you're engaged in a pursuit with a specific purpose. So in some sense, we're always performing. It's rare that we can completely let ourselves go around someone. Totally let our guard down and just be ourselves without any fear of negative social judgments or scrutiny. How many people can you be like that around? It's probably a close group of people. But I think that's sometimes what love is about. Some forms of love have that unconditional characteristic, that feeling of acceptance no matter what. Be who you are, we will love you for it, right? People want to feel safe in that way. And I think that might be why comedians tell audiences they love them, when they do that. I think that might be why audiences reciprocate and tell comedians that they love them. The comedian feels accepted for revealing more of their personality, often aspects of their personality that have not been well accepted and approved in daily life. The prevailing culture has rejected these aspects of the comedian's personality, or at least the comedian feels that it has. And yet, here are people who appreciate them, all the more for those very same personality aspects, right? The flaws become valued in this new context. And audiences feel that acceptance vicariously through the comedian. People are sitting there thinking, oh, everyone else is laughing at this too. I guess they can also relate. Maybe I'm not an isolated weirdo freak like the prevailing culture would have me think I am when I have these thoughts or these aspects of my personality, So ideally, I think that's what's being exchanged at a comedy show. It's that feeling that we all know that there's something more real underneath the surface. We all put on our personalities to participate in polite society, but that's just not the whole story, right? There's more to us than what you see when you say hi to somebody walking down the street, We're all a bit nutty. The world's, kind of crazy. And it's very useful that we pretend to be a little more stable and sane for the sake of keeping, the economy running efficiently and getting things done in life. But it's still helpful to blow off some steam and wink at each other. That was a terrible wink. Wink at each other, that we all agree, this is a bit odd what we're all doing here, this little play we're putting on. It's okay to do that every now and again, And I should say too, that the love between audiences and comedians is not really unconditional. If comedians misstep consistently, audiences will let them know. People won't laugh if the comedian misses the mark too frequently. So the process is a bit of an invitation to personal growth at the same time. Assuming as a comedian you are putting yourself in a position to perform for diverse audiences and, not just sycophants who worship the ground you walk on. It's pretty rare as a comedian that you would have such a following. That would be a toxic form of love, right? If you had this like idol worshiping. But returning to that comeback, Bo has with that audience member, that shouts, "I love you," and Bo fires back, "You love the idea of me." Is that her fault? Should we really be upset in any kind of way with her for not knowing Bo? What aspects of himself is Bo hiding when he's performing that he is afraid the audience would love him for if he were to reveal them? Isn't that kind of implied there? Like, if you knew the real me, you wouldn't love me, you just love the performance. There was that kind of energy to the interaction. And I don't know, it's also still a performance, it's just a joke. I don't know that, you need to take it that seriously, but I thought it was a very interesting interaction. Obviously, I don't know, Bo personally. I can't say that I love him, but I do love some of his art. I'm very appreciative of some of the performance he has put together. And I'm not trying to say anything negative about Bo. I don't think it's desirable or even possible to fully express yourself on stage in a 5-minute or 30-minute or hour-long stand-up performance. That's an absurd expectation. The art is not the artist, and artists are not just artists. They're people with lives that are multifaceted. There's no reason you should feel the need to be everything that you are on stage. It's fine for parts of your personality to be reserved for other, more private interactions with closer friends and family. I think, again, that's very normal, that's very healthy, that's very good. I don't think the love felt between performers and audience members is anything like the love that can be felt between friends or family members. But it still has its place. It's still valuable, and helpful and useful and constructive in its own way. It doesn't have to become something pathological. It can be healthy and natural and good. I feel like when I'm making my art, my jokes, that's my art, I'm exploring the edges of who I am. When I'm moving through daily life, it's more automatic, it's less reflective. Artistic spaces are more consciously reflective spaces. You explore newer ideas. Maybe that changes you. Maybe that shifts how you behave in your day-to-day life in a valuable way, going through that process. And then again, sometimes maybe comedy is just a transactional relationship. Maybe it is just paying money for some laughs because the comic needs money and the audience needs a laugh. It's just, maybe it is straightforward and simple. Maybe no real mutual understanding is being reached. It's a minimal connection. Maybe no growth is happening. Maybe that's too idealistic to have that expectation. It's still like, I've just watched enough comedy. Like, even when it's just about money, it's not entirely. I watch a lot of comedy shows, and lots of times, comics sell merch, t-shirts and beer koozies, to supplement the money from ticket sales. And almost every comic will say something along the lines of, you don't have to buy anything, but please don't ignore me. I'm not a beggar on the street, just say hi, we can hug, take a picture. I'm not an animal, I'm a human with feelings. Like, most comics will say something along those lines if they're doing a merch pitch on stage toward the end of a show. And you just kind of realize, like, oh, a lot of these comics are, just seeking out, through this performance, normal human interaction. The performance is just an excuse to get people to talk to them after the show in some ways. And then they immediately burn out and realize, well, this was a huge mistake, huge mistake to invite people to talk to me. I'm so anxious and annoyed by all of this now, and they want it to be over. But yeah, it's not a purely transactional business relationship, I don't think, between performers and audience members. At its healthiest, artistic creation between comics and audiences can be an enriching experience. It can make you feel a bunch of warm, fuzzy feelings toward one another. It's a form of genuine social bonding. It can lead to personal growth. That has its limits, but that's been my experience of the art form anyway, personally. But maybe that's just because I haven't made any money doing this yet. Maybe once the podcast takes off and the money starts rolling in, I'll wake up and I'll realize it's all about the Benjamins, baby.